And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Somnia Codelab. My name is Manuel, and I'm with the developer relations team here at Somnia. It's truly a delight to anchor this session. In this edition, we'll have a deep dive on using Ormi on Somnia, featuring a special guest from Ormi. Hello, Victor.
Hello, Emmanuel. Nice meeting you. And hi, everyone.
Same here. Welcome. Thank you for doing this. So, Victor, before we get into the Code Lab session for today, if it's not much of an ask, please, I'd like you to kindly share a brief introduction about yourself, Omi, and also what you do at Omi.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. I'm the founder and CEO of Ormi, and Ormi has been around for the past 3 years, actually. So what we're building is what we call unified data layer for crypto for Web3, and then with three core pillars, right? Live data, historical data, and human readable or AI enriched data, right? Data in a way is like a fairly complex topic, but it is actually the core foundation of how to build the best user interface. This is the core layer where we need in order to onboard the next billions of users, right? So that's the problem that like Ormi is trying to solve. There are many different ways of approaching that, and then today we will actually be presenting one of the way that's via subgraph. A little bit about my background. So prior to starting Ormi, I was actually at Microsoft for 5 years. I built the precursor to what ChatGPT was in the browser. So it's more like a co-pilot within the browser. And then prior to that, I graduated from Cornell University with a degree in electrical engineering. And while at Cornell, actually, that's how I got into crypto like earlier in 2016. So you guys may know the founder of the blockchain called Avalanche. Its founder was actually my professor, my operating system professor. So pretty much through that connection, he got me into crypto. That's when Ethereum just started out. So in a way, yeah, I've been around the block for a while. So yeah. So I mean, at Ormi, I run the company, but I have an awesome like dev team and a support team. But today is just for me to kind of showcase what's new at Ormi, especially on the subgraph hosting side, because we believe it's essential to build a good on-chain experience.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for that introduction, Victor. It's a pleasure to have you here. A few ground rules, everyone, before we get into the session. Please kindly note that this session is being streamed live across X and also on YouTube. So that way, developers can always.
Oh,
And having said that, we are ready to dive into the rest of the session. Please keep your questions civil, keep the conversations civil in the comments. For every question that you have, at the end of the Code Lab session, we are going to come in and then answer all of those questions. Kindly keep your questions technical, stay on topic about OMI or Somnia. Handing over to Victor right now to lead the rest of the session. Thank you, Victor.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Hi guys. Earlier I just did a general introduction, and I want to kind of focus on Somnia, right? So in this case, right, Somnia is essentially like kind of the newest paradigm shift in blockchain, where it is actually doing 1 million transactions per block, right? With such fast chain and the enormous amount of data will be generated. That's why that's where we fit in. Like, hey, you need a as big of hyperscale, petascale data access, right, to Somnia. So today, right, there are, in a way, we approach Web3 data. There are different ways. There's traditional data APIs. There are, SQL database, and there is also subgraph. Today I want to focus on subgraph. The reason we're focusing on subgraph is because, in a way, subgraph or the graph standard has become like the de facto standard of going to indexing data on chain. First of all, I will do kind of a short demo, but before that, I want to point you to this URL called subgraph.somnia.network. Let me actually log out first so we can start from a fresh page, right? So this is actually what you need, this one-stop shop you need in order to access on-chain data at Somnia. On Somnia's website, there's an official link. So, I will not go into too much detail on how to sign up because it should be, self-explanatory. I guess before we get into it, I assume if you're a developer in Web3, you'll be familiar with the graph protocol, right? A common question people ask us is, how are we different from the graph, right? So the short version is that the graph is an open source standard. It's great. It has done a lot of great things to the community. However, you can view us as the graph plus plus. That is, many other special features such as metrics, key management, private public URL, and also enhanced analytics and all that, experience that easy you as a developer. I mean, of course, as well as reliability and performance side, right? That is typically not quite available, but with the graph, but with us, right? That's what we ensure. Our team ensure world class access experience. So you don't worry about the downtime, we don't worry about the lag. So think of it as, in the traditional Web2 sense, right? There is Git, which is the open source standard. Anybody can self-host Git. That's what the graph is. And we're GitHub, right? We're a managed service. So today, right, what I wanted to show is that, how do you actually deploy subgraph onto Somnia? There are a ton of tutorial online. We will not go into much of the nitty-gritty details of what a subgraph is, how do you spin one up, right? This is assuming you have working knowledge. And then, actually, in a way, right, I want to focus on some of the quick start, right? We try to simplify things. So you just follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there you go. You have a subgraph, deployed and ready to indexing. And then today we're gonna kind of try to focus on is essentially a graph called token approvals, which is tracking token information on the Somnia blockchain. So before, again, like I know you all want to see the demo, see the live deploy and query, but before I get to that, I want to point out, right, in case you need further help during your deployment process, there is official documentation that should be linked to at the Somnia website. So later on, we will actually forward it to developers who's interested. So in these pretty much documentation, it goes into a lot more details when it comes to creating a key, performing query, even more advanced, such as how do I basically graft, right, a subgraph, as well as some of the API endpoints and managing, creating, deleting subgraphs without using the UI. Okay, so without further ado, let's try to yeah. So sorry, I just want to share regarding, and then there is also, just 1 second here, guys. Emmanuel just let me know regarding the documentation side. There is one more documentation that is from the Somnia docs, where you can find a shortened guide, actually a much better shortened guide on how to deploy subgraph. But the goal here is for you to develop without referring much to the doc, right? So we have a quick start guide built in. So let me try to share my editor. So in this case, we have dual screen, so it will be easier to. Just 1 second, guys. Okay, let me try to share this. will go for entire screen here. Okay, so let me double check. So I assume you see both. Yes, okay. Sorry, infinite mirroring, but so now, right, I will try to guide this through both in my code editor as well as this deployment process, right? So in order to deploy a subgraph, right, first we need to obtain, a subgraph. One example I have right now open up is what's called a token approval subgraph. So let me do although I mentioned earlier that there are plenty of docs out there, but let me also quickly go through the structure for this subgraph. So this is essentially tracking token ERC20, ERC721, and 1155 approved events. So essentially you define a schema here. That's the kind of the query you'll perform. I want to kind of let you focus on this subgraph YAML file, because this is essentially the parameter where you set, right, in order to basically make your subgraph. It's your configuration file, right? So in network, you want to have Somnia testnet, right? Because right now, Somnia is on testnet. If on mainnet later, you can open up from mainnet. Starting block, this is which block do you want to start indexing Somnia. Let's change this to 70 million, because that's kind of a little bit closer to the chain tip, which will enable faster sync speed. Yeah, so I think that's it, right? These are tracking two different sources, ERC20 or ERC721. And whatever you generate will be generated here. That will be compiled down to WebAssembly. And then that will be later uploaded to the Somnia subgraph instance. So, following the quick start guide, right? First of all, identify the network. We have identified Somnia testnet. Download the graph CLI. So typically, if you see my terminal here, that will just be installing graph CLI. I will not do it here because it's going to take some time. And the graph CLI is the official graph CLI, right? A lot of other subgraph provider perhaps ask you to use their own CLI, which introduces complexity. We make it 100% compatible, even the same tooling. And the coolest thing is when the graph gets new patches, new changes, you automatically have that on Somnia, subgraph with both its CLI as well as its, graph node. So in a way, we're 100% compatible, makes dev's life super, super easy. And you also don't have to worry about backward compatibility issue, because if you have older graph CLI, you know what? Most of the time, it will work as well. So, I went a little bit off the tangent, but let me try to go back to this, right? Step 1, step 2, and step 3, code gen. So 3, 4, 5, that's actually when you actually deploy the subgraph. So let's try to compile this subgraph or generate the mapping and everything. So you see the terminal here, graph code gen. Okay, this time it went by fairly fast. And then let's actually compile it and build it into WebAssembly. Okay, so it looks like things are compiled WebAssembly file, and now we deploy, right? Oh, also one critical thing I forgot to mention is that there is a deploy key that's here. You can typically do it in your key settings page. I will show you later. But following this shortcut, right, not to break up the flow, is step 3 for deploy. You simply copy this command. It has all the parameter set, the node, endpoint instance, as well as IPFS, as well as your deploy key. So of course, right, by video streaming, my deploy key is now compromised. But don't worry, right? There's a way for you to refresh your key later. So let me name it, demo, right? Let's call it demo, demo token approval. Okay, let's try how it works. And by the way, you can use a version here. So call it version 0.03. Okay, and then it should actually be around your dashboard instantly. You may have to refresh the page. This is the one I deployed earlier. And this is the new one that just showed up. So now let's try to, when subgraph gets deployed, right, it may take some time to sync. Like the closer the subgraph is closer to the chain tip, the faster the syncs. So you may start with a zero, state. So let me try to go into, the query side, right? Let's just try to fire up some query. It looks like some data already indexed. This is a very typical GraphQL interface. And then let me just try to say query some tokens to see what's around here. I just call it tokens, right? This is a simple subgraph, but let's try to do a simple query here. Here we go. A list of tokens that are on Somnia blockchain just showed up. And of course, I can order this based on timestamps to get the latest data. But let's do a due diligence or sanity check to see this actually exists, to see that it actually exists. But I just want to show you, compare with the block explorer, right? So I copied that hash earlier. So see, there we go. It's ping. It's a ERC20 token, I believe, or is it ERC20? Let me see. Yeah, it's a ERC20 token. See, you see this token exists, right? This just pretty much give you a list of all the, sorry, too many editors here. It just essentially give you a list of the tokens, and then let's check again for a different token. Okay, there we go. It exists. So the subgraph works. So what I did earlier, right? This is, as a developer, that's what you will mostly go to. 5 steps, but it's really 3, 4, 5, right? Generate, compile, and deploy. That's it. That's all you need to know to have a subgraph deployed. That's a core functionality, and we'll wrap this up. I want to see a lot other cool features, right? Because people ask, okay, what's the difference between Ormi and the graph, right? There are all this other extra bells and whistles that make a developer life easier and fun. So one thing I want to show you is what we recently added is this called migrate from another provider. That is, if you have a graph, a subgraph somewhere else on another network, you can literally go there, say, for example, the graph, right? Grab its deployment ID, and then give it a name and a version. It will instantly, deploy. Ideally, it should be the same network. If it's a different network, I haven't tried it out. Perhaps we should just, should we give it a try just to see what happens? Okay, let's actually just try that. I think it will be fun to, let's go to the graph here. Let's see if we can get a subgraph from somewhere else. Or just pick something like Arbitrum or, 1 second here. Graph Explorer. I just want to show you the functionality because a lot of things may not be. Oh, actually, hold on a second. There is quick swap here. Let's try a quick swap here. So there's a deployment ID. We go to Somnia subgraph. Migrate from our other provider. That's the quick swap ID. Let's give it a try. Okay. So it's not guaranteed to work in this case because the graph, I don't think it supports Somnia yet, or at least we picked a network that's not on Somnia. So there may not be compatibility, but it's just to show you. Okay, so I guess, but this is just to show you that failed because it was taken from a different network. But this is just to show you that we can do this one-click migration if you have a subgraph deployed somewhere else. So this is one of the cool, nifty features that we have developed. And a few things I want to show you here is that, make public, make private, right? Because a lot of time people care about the subgraph. They don't want to open it to public yet, right? They don't want to expose it to the public. So when it's private, you can actually only see it yourself. When you click on public, everybody else, on this network can see it. So in this case, if you're a DeFi project, you want to open it up to, other developers or other community members, this will be basically publicly queryable. And also one more interesting thing I want to point out is, you see this URL here. These are dynamically generated URL based on your project, based on your user API key. So there will not be such, naming conflicts. Oftentimes, when you self-host a graph node or using the graph service or some other provider, pretty much your graph name is a unique key. So when there are so many people deploying, a lot of the time you cannot really take the name. But with this unique ID, you're actually able to, um, basically like avoid namespace conflicting. And also one more thing, a few other things I wanted to show you is there is API status endpoints. A lot of time it's important for developer to query the state, right? So this REST API you can directly embed it into your app to get states such as chain head, what is its health, what's the syncing status, and then what else? And then there is, various metrics, how often we have created, what is its latency, what is response data size in kilobytes. Um, the reason those are important is once you put this subgraph in production, you will often need to, say when your traffic goes up, right, you want to see exactly how many people are querying my subgraph and what is its latency. And there's also logs here, right, detailed logs in case some issue occurs, you need to, debug. And you also may see there's this pause button. So a lot of the time you say, hey, I need to debug the subgraph, or I don't want to take up too much resource. So let's click on pause button, pause the subgraph. And a lot of the time, the graph node sometimes can have, if you've been in Web3 for a long time, you've been dealing with production system, sometimes the graph node simply just, doesn't index. That doesn't happen often. It's a chain by chain cases. But often the sanity check, if your subgraph is stuck, is to press pause and restart. Oftentimes that will reset the indexing, dealing with issues like reorg and all that. But if there is issue, my team is actually here to support. You can, contact information will be, we'll provide you with our contact information later. And one last feature I want to show you is what's called a tag. There is a little bit more detailed information. Tag is basically what's called aliasing, because if you are, say, managing multiple versions like 0.03 and 0.04, you want to say you have a new version, but you don't want to change, your application, right, URL. So you can literally create an alias as a placeholder pointing to an older version. And when a new version releases, you can, basically point that new version to the same tag. So this way, on your application side, there is no difference basically. So user will not feel the disruption. So we just create a tag name called name1, and then let's go back to you see here now, right? Your subgraph actually has multiple names. You can refer by token approval v0.03, or you can refer to token approval / name1. You see here, this is the tag here. So in a way, right, this is what public facing name there is. User will not know which version or which subgraph it really is. It really kind of hides the, creates a more unified interface, right, for a better application environment. So this is the cool feature that people really, really love. And also, I don't think I explored other things. So once the Somnia ecosystem grows, right, you will see a lot more public subgraphs if people decide to publish them. For example, the QuickSwap team decide to publish their subgraph, and you can actually simply add it to your dashboard. I mean, it's they open it up, so you can actually query, QuickSwap testnet here. The exciting thing is the more and more developer on boards, there are going to be a lot more, interesting, stuff here. So let's see tokens, right, on QuickSwap. It's going to be a lot more information, and also factories and all that. But this is just to show you there will be a lot more subgraphs out there. And a few other, settings that I haven't showed you, for example, API key, right? Earlier I used a different API key. Now I need to recreate a new API key. And then in the usage setting, it will actually later show you, because I just deployed a subgraph now. It's going to take some time for it to, sync up, but there will going to be a detailed dashboard showing your, exact usage, how much storage does such subgraph take. And then also, billing for, oh, by the way, there is also this called team invite, which you can invite someone on your team. For example, I will invite Paul on my team to be part of the project, so he can actually see, the projects that we both have access to. And of course, right, it supports multiple projects. Some projects you want to keep it to yourself. Some projects you want to keep it to the team, right? So we allow such, fine-grained control. Yeah, so that's roughly all with the setting. Oh, by the way, I even forgot about this dark mode, right? Everybody needs dark mode. Yeah, so that's roughly wraps it up. And I do want to mention that, we are, working in process of developing a set of pre-built data APIs. Those are typical REST APIs for you to query balances, transfers, transactions, NFTs. Those are actually now capable to be done by Subgraph, because there's a concept called account-based indexing and also, smart contract-based indexing. So the graph is basically smart contract-based indexing. It's really good at giving me what does this contract do, but it's not good at giving you what's my token holding across my balance, right? That's account based. So we're developing a set of data API to cover that front. Yeah, so we will have another dev session to go through these API details. But right now, right, this is supposed to be your one-stop solution for finding for accessing on-chain data via Subgraph. Yeah, so that's wraps up my presentation on the development side. So let me know if there's any more questions. Yeah.
Awesome. That was really delightful. Thank you so much, Victor, for taking the time to do this. So this is the point where if you have any questions, kindly drop them in the comments, and then I'm going to bring up those questions and present them to Victor. But please remember the ground rules. Keep your questions on topic, either about Somnia or about Ormi, whatever tech question that you have. But having laid that background, I just have a few questions that I want to ask Victor. So the first one is regarding ease of access for Web2 developers, right? So I'm building subgraphs and easy tech that anyone who does not understand blockchain technology to the point of writing Solidity smart contracts, can they easily pick up query languages and start building out subgraphs on their own? This is away from the APIs right now.
Okay, so the shorter version is with most so with any new technology, right, there is some kind of ramp up time. So Solidity smart contract, that's a separate topic in a way that when you deploy Subgraph, you would assume you have working knowledge of smart contracts, right? But there are actually a lot of educational resource online. For example, Stackfold ETH. Also, even let's just look it up together right now, right? Because for example, Uniswap, right, has a Uniswap, which is a decentralized exchange, right? In their source code, they actually, in a way, have this open source UI even come with those Solidity code, and in a way, in this UI, that there are subgraphs, right, pre-written subgraphs here. So in a way, right, there's so much development resource, you theoretically can just deploy an application, deploy a swap, entire stack, right? Front end subgraph as well as the smart contracts, and then you can start playing around with that. And then the good thing about the subgraph side is it's GraphQL. If you know basic GraphQL, you should be able to figure out relatively easily. And as well as the subgraph language, right? Building the script, right, for that is fairly one-to-one. Map to the smart contract, to Solidity. So yeah, with some resources, it's actually not hard to pick up at all.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm just going to ask this question from someone in the community. It's now. It said, I'm curious about Omi's petabyte scale data handling capabilities.
Okay, yeah. So as a background, right? So basically, if you look into the news, right, everybody is talking about scaling blockchain, as fast as we can, right? They think that's the limiting factor, but we actually view the other way. Pretty much, the faster blockchain goes means more transaction, means there's more storage. Unlike Web2 application, blockchain the way its architecture right now is you still have to store all its historical state from the beginning. Even Somnia subgraph, right? We need an archival data. It will not work without an archival node. Some of the calls will just not work. So in a way, right, when Somnia mainnet launches, when Somnia becomes successful, when there are 1 year, 2 year in, right, it's going to be approaching hundreds of terabytes and even more like petabytes, right, scale when you combine hundreds of chain together, right? So think it as, blockchain's data is almost as big as traditional Web 2, but somebody has to be building a layer, like you can call it a Google, right, of Web 3, be able to index, sort that out, so that developers don't have to worry about the complexity. So that's kind of the midterm vision that we're focusing on. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. And then another question for myself regarding the subgraph porting. Any timeline to when that would be available on Somnia?
Sorry, regarding subgraph support?
No, subgraph porting, being able to port existing subgraphs from another infra
It's
onto.
actually already available, because what I showed earlier is that it's already available. Earlier it didn't work was because we were picking a subgraph from, I think, from Arbitrum, from a different network. So if there's another Somnia testnet somewhere else that's deployed, even self-hosted, as long as the self-hosted is has a correct IPFS gateway, you can do the instant porting. Yeah, this functionality is a new functionality released a month ago, but it 100% works. Earlier, I just picked the wrong subgraph.
Awesome, great. And then last question for me, please, any more questions from the community, kindly drop them in the chat and we'll be able to answer them here real time. But post these events, we'll still be able to look through the events on X and be able to answer all of the questions that will come in. And also this video will be available on YouTube. So regarding pricing, which I know a lot of developers want to understand when they should start expecting that, I think right now it's still free for use, but do you want to speak a little bit about that?
So I think we normally offer a pretty generous developer plan. I think this is something that we are kind of discussing the Somnia team. So basically, as for now, there will not be any rate limit, not be any large rate limit, right, on top, and then you should actually be able to deploy your subgraph for it to sync to completion without any issue. As of now, yeah. And there is a fairly, kind of, generous, free tier. But I really say, hey, like, worry about the pricing later when the mainnet launches, right? Because testnet, the goal is to make developers' life easier, not for you to worry about pricing at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. So that goes without saying that as a developer, you should start creating subgraphs right now without having to worry about any overheads that you might be afraid that would hold you back. So kindly go to the docs. It's available at subgraph.somnia.network and then start creating those subgraphs. So these Codelab sessions are built to be short, simple, straightforward to the point, while keeping it engaging and very, very relevant to developers. So with that, we have come to the end of today's session. It has been a delight having you here with us, Victor. But before we close this out, I just want to ask if you have any parting words for the dev community.
So mostly two aspects, right? One aspect is, we try to build the Somnia subgraph as seamless as possible. So to deploy, you really need just three operations, three commands on your command line, and there you go, right? And everything else can be done in the UI. And the second one is my team is here to support, right? Although You might be mostly interfacing with the Somnia team, but don't be shy to reach out directly to me personally or to my team. So you can find my Telegram at Victor, my first and last name, Victor Fay at Victor Fay. Yeah, that's my Telegram. Or you can email me victor@ormilabs.com. Yeah, so my team is here to support. We love to hear feedback from you. Because Web3 data is a little bit trickier. There's so many different angles to approach this. We want to build the best developer experience, and we want to onboard the next billion users. And we know your feedback is what builds or what makes or breaks the entire Web3 ecosystem. To be honest, the developers, you are the backbone of Web3's future.
Awesome. That is a great place to close it out from. Developers, you are the backbone of the Web3 future, and Somnia is here, Ormi is here as ecosystem partners to be able to give you that infra that you need to scale your projects. So go out there and start building those subgraphs. It's been a pleasure having you here, Victor. Thank you very much. Looking forward to having you back where we get to talk about the API components. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining in. Remember to come back into Discord, ask any questions that you have, tag me into any queries for developers. If you need more SCT tokens for your projects, please don't hesitate to reach out. And also with any other concerns that you have. So you're the backbone of the ecosystem. We are here because you are. Thank you very much, everyone, to have me.